More and more people are identifying as empaths. There are books out there, webinars out there, articles about there. There is more and more information about the idea that many people might be experiencing life as an empath. And what does that really mean? So, an empath is someone who automatically senses the emotions or the needs or the sensitivities of other people, and sometimes, and oftentimes, I should say, takes them on for themselves. So you can be a person who is an empath. You walk into a room and you immediately are impacted by all of the energy of the emotion that's there, all of the heartache, all of the despair that is there. And it's not just compassion towards someone. It's basically a sensitivity to the energy of what that person is experiencing or that group of people is experiencing. And I'm going to give you an example of this for myself because I'm a bit of an empath. I'm very sensitive to energy in general, and I'm very intuitive in helping people kind of understand what's going on with them, or also intuitive in understanding that there's something going on with people even before they know it sometimes. So I'm going to give you an example of this. At the very beginning of COVID, I was doing what everybody is, trying to get some supplies, trying to figure out what to do. And I wanted to go get some dog food. And I buy my dog food at Costco. And they have really good dog food there. Their brands are rated really high. And I thought, okay, I'm still going to keep going there, even though you can have large crowds of people there. And I walked in, it was probably the second or third week of when COVID really shut us down. I walk in to go get dog food first thing in the morning, right when they open. I know where the dog food is. I wasn't going to take a whole lot of time to get other things. I just wanted to get the dog food and a few other things and leave. And about 3 rows back, as I was walking to the back of the store to get the dog food, I just was overwhelmed with a sense of needing to cry. And I'm walking along going, gosh, wow, this is coming out of nowhere. What am I feeling? What's going on with me? And I very quickly realized that I was picking up on the energies of everybody in that building, even at 9:30 in the morning when not too many people were there. Everybody was trying to, of course, get there, but that's not the busiest time of the day for Costco. But about 3 rows in, like I said, I was just literally hit with this energy, and I very quickly identified it was their energy, not mine. And so it was helpful for me to realize from my own emotional perspective, yes, I had stress because of the pandemic and what was going on and all the uncertainty and trying to figure everything out. But it was not entirely my emotion that I was feeling. I was immediately feeling the impact of everybody's energy that was bombarding me. So by the time I got back to get the dog food, I think I might have gotten eggs and a couple other things and got out of there. It's probably maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes because I got in and got out. And by the time I got out, I could not wait to get out of there because I could feel the energy just kind of having to scrape off of me. So this is just one example. If you are an empath, if you are one of those people that goes into a situation and you feel something immediately, if you don't know that you're an empath, you might feel something and think it's yours. You might go into that situation and think that it's your depression or your anxiety or your dismay or grief or whatever it might be, because a true empath just immediately senses it. But if they don't know how to distinguish whether or not it is theirs, it's just really important to learn that so that you don't take it on for yourself. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about empaths in general because I want to get right down to the idea of what causes a person to become an empath. Now, many people talk about the human side of this and don't even realize that there is a soul side of it. So there are books out there, there are movies out there, there are articles and webinars and videos about being an empath. And those are all important to watch. And what I want to talk about is the human aspects of this. So I have a few different lists from the human side and the soul side that I want to talk about. So there is actually some pretty good research out there. We need much more research actually about this, but there's some pretty good research out there that they're starting to see some trends as far as even genetic testing. So is there a genetic link to a parent or a grandparent being an empath and how that places some responsibility, emotional responsibility on the offspring? So it's shown that about 50% of those who are empaths, there is a genetic link to ancestors. So here's the thing. Is that truly because of the physiological kind of genetics, or is it because of the ancestral healing? Now, I would say, as someone who does psychology work, as well as someone who does soul healing work, a lot of it has to do with ancestral healing. So when previous generations have gone through some sort of trauma or ongoing trauma for that matter, or some sort of difficulty, ongoing difficulty, it is literally being passed down now through the genes. We now know that there are different forms of looking at how this impacts people, and it's genetic, and we do actually get energetically imprinted, and it's passed down through the generations. So we could literally have a genetic link. And there are lots of words for this, so I'm not going to throw out the scientific words for it because I want to help you just understand the basics at this moment. We also know that things like childhood trauma, childhood loss, difficulties in childhood, for some children can create or can cause that idea of sensitivity to others. Now, again, being a psychologist, I work with people all the time who have been raised in volatile upbringings. So whether it's a mom or a dad who either maybe they were alcoholic, maybe they were just abusive, maybe there are all kinds of different dynamics that were going in the family. And one or the other of those offspring may have developed this idea that they had to keep the peace, they had to be sensitive, they had to read the room, they had to get in a situation where they could anticipate what might be happening with the people around them so they could protect themselves or someone else within the household. So some of empathy can be trained into a person according to what kind of upbringing they had. If there was a severe kind of loss as a child and they really didn't have support, they really didn't have someone to help them through that, for some people, empathy can develop because then their heart goes out to other people who might have lost something or might be challenged in some way or might be going through some sort of heartache. So, again, there can be human training, as I would say, conditioning that may cause a person to have some sort of empathetic um, imprint on who they are so that they develop as a personality in a way that they're very sensitive to what other people need at any given time. They're sensitive to if someone's hurting. In other words, they're very human experiences that can imprint upon us. I talk about energetic imprints all the time when I'm talking about soul wounds. But that can be part of what causes empathy, is that these energetic imprints that are left on us, and I'm somewhat talking about the epigenetics piece of this, but I'm mostly talking about what is happening in this lifetime that may have caused that. So the human condition experience can be past because of ancestral, it could be present because of our own human experiences. And then also, I want to talk about this from the soul level. Again, this can sound very different for some people. They don't know how to put it together, but I want to put the information out there because there are some soul-based reasons why a person may be an empath. So the first of which is, how does your astrological personality look? So a lot of people don't really look at astrology as a viable source of information or description of who you are. But astrology has been around for thousands of years, far before modern medicine ever evolved. If you think about an astrological personality, you can actually look at a person's full astrological chart. Now, there's 12 different houses. There are different descriptors for each one of those houses. And all of those 12 houses build together to become your astrological personality. Doing psychology work, it's very helpful for me to know what that astrological personality is because, and I'm not an astrologer, but I can tell pretty quickly the story about what their life lessons are going to be. Are they going to be more sensitive than other souls on this planet? Are there going to be times when they're going to be falling into something like codependency, falling into something like a depressive cycle or an anxious cycle? Being an empath may in fact have a direct impact because of the astrology. So Pisceans, if you're a Pisces, you are the most sensitive of the zodiac. If you are a Cancer, you are the second most sensitive of the zodiac. Now, if you are not one of those and you're still an empath, it might be because you don't know the rest of your chart. If you know the rest of your chart and you have a lot of Pisces in you there, or you have a lot of Cancer in you there, or you have some of the other signs that have a light kind of layer of sensitivity, less so than the Pisces and the Aquarian, excuse me, the Cancers, you could still be an empath even if you don't have one of those as your main sign. It just depends on your overall personality structure. The other part of that is sometimes for those of you who do want to delve straight into astrology, if you have a full chart done and you have what's called a progressive chart run, that astrologer can help you look at your life path, your overall life, and see specifically when certain parts of your life from start to finish may be more sensitive than others. In other words, what may be happening as your own astrological personality unfolds that might leave you more vulnerable or more susceptible to kinds of emotions. So again, astrological personality can be one of those. I'm not going to go deeply into the astrology either because that is a long subject to talk about. And I do talk about that, or I will be talking about that in my Soul Health Scholars program that is for the level 2 certifications. Another part of it is how your soul is created. Now, we think we are just humans. We're just had a male and female who came together and made us. That is only part of the story. We actually have a soul side to how we were created and how our souls were created in the very, very, very beginning. And this is before our parents ever came together. So there's a lot to do with how our soul is created. So the divine energy center. So we are all made of ingredients. We are all made of different ingredients. So it's kind of like taking a scoop of this, a scoop of that, putting it all together, and there you go with your soul's personality from a soul composition perspective. So these divine energies and how they're put together. Now, again, a whole other workshop for you to understand this from, but I just want to touch base with this a little bit because if your soul was actually created way back beyond the astrology, behind it, beyond everything else, if it was literally constructed energetically in certain ways, you can be more of an empath. You can be more of someone who is super sensitive to other people's emotions that are around you. That is another part of something to think about is, wow, okay, if I'm not explaining this through the astrology, if I'm not really explaining my empathy, empathetic nature toward looking at life events and things that have happened in my own life, well, then where the heck did it come from? It could very well be that your soul was created in such a way that you are designed to be an empath. Now, if that is the case, that means that you're going to be an empath in each and every one of your lifetimes. Whereas if it is an astrological personality impact, it's maybe one or maybe this lifetime that you're an empath. It might be any of the others. It could be that this is a random, seemingly random kind of event, but it's whatever it is that you're supposed to learn in your path in an astrological life that may impact how it is that you experience empathy. So in other words, let me say this before I go on. Our astrology changes from lifetime to lifetime according to what it is we're supposed to learn and evolve into. Our astrology does not stay the same in most cases. So what happens with that is if we have learned what we're supposed to learn, then we will evolve into the next set of that astrological personality. Whereas if our souls are actually created with the substances that might have something to do with empathy, those substances will be there throughout every single lifetime, regardless of what our astrology looks like. So there are layers to how all of this may come together. Another thing to just think about is, well, and I'm going to go into this for a second as well. If you understand the idea of star seeds, in other words, where our souls came from, it's kind of like an ethnic group. So someone, I don't know, someone in Asia is going to have different cultural identity than someone in America, someone in South America, someone in New Zealand, someone in Antarctica. We could just look at the different cultural kind of perspectives that come from around the world. But if we look at it from a starseed perspective, for those of you who understand what this is, different star seeds have different cultures. They have different outlooks. They have different experiences of how they experience life. And some of those star seeds are naturally empathetic. Some of them are naturally kind of standoffish. Some of them are naturally just very practical, whereas others are very emotional. So it could be from a soul perspective, it could be astrological personality, it could be part of your life lessons according to the astrology, it could be divine energies from how your soul was composed, and then also it could be, again, some of this starseed history and how that is impacting you as well. Now, I will say that anything that we are experiencing, whether it's from the human side or the soul side, when it comes to empathy, is all part of what we're supposed to learn. It's all part of our soul lessons. It's all part of our life lessons and how we are supposed to experience things, decide we aren't going to live that way or experience that anymore if it is not giving to us or serving us in some way. And then we are here to evolve beyond it. So for some of you who are watching this, you're going to think, what the heck is she talking about? And wow, she's really off the deep end with this. But because I do both psychological work and I do soul work, I understand how these things might be layered on one another and how they fold together to create what it is that we experience as part of the human condition. And that is the main reason why I keep talking about bringing ancient wisdom to the modern soul, is that if we understood some of the soul-based aspects of how we are living our human condition, how we are experiencing the human condition, how we are struggling through the human condition, we would get much further and we would be able to understand that there are layers to this soul aspect that really create what I call the whole soul experience. So again, I'm going to go through these very, very quickly once again. So from a genetic perspective, we can have about a 50% link with our ancestors, whether it's a parent, grandparent, whatever it might be, that we might have that same kind of empathy toward other people. Now, again, I did not mention this before. This is part of the learned response. So if you were around or brought up around an empath, you will likely have some empathy as well. You will likely see how they're living their lives and it will imprint on you and you will basically learn to be an empath. But we have that genetic piece of this. We have the experience of trauma. We have the experience of loss. We have that information that just comes from human experience that may cause us to be an empath in human life. On the other side, we also again go back to this idea of the soul side, whether it is the astrological personality and the life lessons that might be part of it, whether it is the energy centers, whether it is the divine energies that are placed in us and created as we are created as souls. And then secondly, or thirdly in this case, what is the starseed history? Is we are brought up in a way that we don't realize that there are starseed histories that we, each and every one of our souls probably come from, then that could lead us to misunderstand where that empathy comes from. Again, all of this has to do with life lessons. All of this has to do with what we're supposed to learn. But if you really want to dig in and understand why is it that it's so hard for you to overcome being an empath, it could be that you need to look at the soul side. So lots of quick information that I just shared, but this video was really meant to just give you a little bit more information for why it is that you struggle. Why is it that you are overwhelmed by people's emotions? Why is it that you are taking on some of that energy that's not even yours and having a difficult time knowing how to block it? So more information to come on this, but I just wanted to start giving you these snapshot ideas, and I don't want to give you a ton of information because it's still a lot to process for people who don't understand it. So if you have questions, feel free to put comments in the video line. Feel free to contact me and I'd be happy to answer these questions. But really, it's a soul by soul kind of discovery process to find out what is causing this empathy in you. I hope this is helpful. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.